All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit more about the problems we were having with the existing pump, and this was prior to me putting in the other pump. Um, I know that the existing pump has a problem. It's got something wound up in the motor. It needs to be rebuilt according to the rep, the Merino rep. Spent an hour on the phone with him one day, and we ran some diagnostics on it, and like I said, it was deadheading when we closed that valve right there and deadheaded the pump wide open. It was pulling 14.8 amps. It's only supposed to pull about 8 amps. So anyways, but here's where we think the problem was. So this pump's variable speed, it runs based on demand. It'll speed up and slow down based on demand. So the system works where it always has pressure on the system. It's always ready to go. It presses up to 60 psi or so, and then it'll stop. It'll shut off, and then when someone opens a valve or something, it'll start. The pump will come back on, and it'll rev back up. Anyways, the problem we were having is that if there's any leak anywhere in the system, in the line, a valve leaking to the sprinkler heads, or a valve leaking to the drip system, or someone in the garden leaves a valve open, or there's a drip with the at the spigots in the garden, this thing's going to cycle on and off based on how bad that leak is. What that does, and this is the problem we were having, what that does is it causes this pump to basically overheat, and that water gets super hot in there. And while the steel piping can handle it, when it gets down to this plastic piping, it can't handle really high temperatures. That glue melts around 160 degrees from what I've seen, so from what I've read. And this blows out, and then you got major problems. It runs all night. We've had that happen. So we spent a lot of time trying to find the leaks, but we couldn't find the leaks. So, but I want to tell you where I think the leak was. So you have these valves down here. Well, this is just a junction box for the wiring. But you have these valves down here, and I want to show you. I was talking to the guy that cleaned this up this year. He took a stab at it anyways. And we were looking at this. You have a valve right there. This is the first valve. If you look, the way this operates is it gets an electronic signal, and it opens up. It sends water that way through that through what's a strainer there. If you unscrew that cap, there's supposed to be a filter in there, and that filter catches really small, fine particle and debris. Here's the problem though. If a bunch of trash gets in there and it gets to that filter and it clogs that filter up, the trash is gonna back up into this valve. When that trash backs up into that valve may or may not close. If it doesn't close, it's gonna leak by into your sprinkler system. I believe that's where the problem is. I think that strainer system needs to be reworked. It's too close to this. Strainers typically face down, not up. That way they collect trash, and then when you open them up, you can flush the trash out onto the ground. I believe they installed this the wrong way. I would probably have this reworked so that it faced down, dig this out, or do something with it with the piping. You got a little room here, but I'd do something to where you could drain that strainer. Clean it out, drain it, flush it. That way you don't have trash building up. We pulled the strainer out of there, and after that we had no problems with leaking. It's run perfect ever since. The problem though is that small bits of debris are finding their way down in the system, and we need to get it fixed before the next year, so we don't end up clogging up the sprinkler heads. So I believe that's where the problem was this year. Like I said, there's a lot of places that you could have small leaks. Any small leak in the system with that variable speed pump is going to cause that pump to overheat internally, and then you're going to end up with leaky leaky joints or joints that blow out, and that's where you're at. With the other system, with the other pump, if you have a leaking joint, the pump's just going to run. Eventually, if it gets hot, it's going to kill itself. It's got overload protection in there, so it should just automatically shut itself off. So I think that pump is actually a little better solution for the problems that we see with this type of setup and all the possible places where there's leaks. So anyways, wanted to kind of talk about that. Not much else to the sprinkler system. This is our vault. Water comes in one side. It's got a weir system in it, so it catches the dirty water and any major debris on one side. The clean water floats over into the side where the pickup pipes, where the pipes are that pick up the water for the system. So that water over there should be really clean, shouldn't have any heavy particulates floating around in it. We did suck this out in 2019. We were having some concerns with the neighbor and the irrigation. I'll talk about irrigation problems here in a minute and on the next video, but we did have this. We hired a truck to come in here, left some nice ruts. We hired a truck to come in to suck that out and clean it out. Lot of trash, major debris. Matter of fact, those chunks of concrete right there, all that concrete down there, they pulled out of the bottom of that sump right there. So anyways, just a little history on that.